San Diego. Right now, I'm a published author, four-time award-winning author, motivational speaker. I am the founder and CEO of Hood Proverbz, and that's with a Z for all those that are listening. If you're looking it up, it's not with an S. That was taken. But just a little background, right? Before I became all those titles, because that's all it is. It's just titles and labels. Doesn't really mean much. But what that shows is a lot of hard work and dedication. To just keep it a buck with y'all. It started from humble beginnings in the sense that I didn't think I was gonna make it to where I was. I never had big dreams, never had big goals. Born and raised in San Diego. Didn't have much family. Mom and dad were both in the house, so some people would think that's oh yeah, you have your mom and your dad. Everything's gonna be okay. I mean, yes, I had a roof over my head. Yes, I had clothes on my back. Yes, did I go through it financially struggling? Nah. But just like all they had, they both had jobs. And so I remember growing up, I heard someone say a job, the acronym for job is just over broke. And that's exactly what we were. We were just over broke, right? We had all the necessities, but there wasn't any savings. There wasn't family vacations. There wasn't none of that. However, it got me by. But one of the things during that time was that because my mom and my dad both had their parents alive and they had siblings, meaning that they're supposed to be my uncles and aunties, they never really introduced me to them. And so for many years growing up, I just felt, and I don't know if you've ever felt like this or anyone listening, I felt that because they didn't, like, especially my dad, I never met his sister or his brother and all those people. I felt I was unlovable. I felt like I was a mistake. Like if you say you're my dad and you say you love me, like you say you love me, or I think you love me, because my dad never told me he loved me. Although in the house I never heard him say that. Uh, then why wouldn't you introduce me to the rest of my family? What's wrong with me? That was my thought growing up from like so 12 to 18, although living in the house with mom and dad and my younger brother, I thought there was something wrong with me. And I mean, for many years, Armani, let me tell you, I would, when they would like both leave the house and I come home from school, I was searching. I mean, for 6 years, you would think I would have found some in a small little apartment or a condo that I would have found the adoption papers because I thought I was adopted. I said, if you really love me, then I can't be your family. You've had to adopt me, it just makes all the sense in the world. And that emptiness in my heart led me to looking for family elsewhere. And so when I moved into a certain section of where I grew up at in Paradise Hills in San Diego, and I met these friends. Those friends became like my brothers, right? And I would do anything for my brotherhood, right? Their family, their mom, their dad, their aunties, their uncles, their cousins, relatives. They accepted me with open arms. And I'm like, damn. And so I didn't want to lose that. You know what I mean? Like I really didn't want to lose that. And I would do anything. I would die or go to jail um, behind that friendship, behind that brotherhood. And the test came. That test came. I remember I was 23 years old. I had just 4 months previous, I had just got out of the county jail on a probation violation for being around people I shouldn't have been around. And I remember sitting at my girlfriend's house at the time and I'm cupcaking. I got my arm wrapped around her. We're watching videos all on TV. And my best friend gets a phone call. And I start to like, I hear his voice lower a little bit. And so I lean over, I'm ear hustling. And he's like, nah, for real? And I kind of like look, but I'm like, nah, I can't stop loving all my girls. So I kind of like dismissed what he said. And he said it again. And then he was like, hey, Code. So back in the day when I was growing up and I was gang banging, because I was a gang member, right? They used to call me So Cold, SOKOLD, So Cold. So he's like, hey, Code, turn it to channel 10. And channel 10 was the news. And as soon as the news come on the screen, it's panning. You see like a mall, you see a parking lot, you see a Macy sign. And then as it centers, you see a sheet and the contours of a body underneath it. And as they zoomed in, the sheet never covered the full shoe. And you could see these 1/4 inch heels on these dress shoes. And I knew who that was. That was my best friend, Melvin Patterson. And Come to find out, he went outside to fight a young man. They were both about to get into it. And the young man didn't believe in fighting, unbeknownst to my friend. He pulled out a gun and shot my friend in the face in broad daylight and killed my friend while the mother of his 1-year-old daughter sat there and watched. And at that time, that messed me up, and all I felt was anger. And so I did what most people think they may want to do when someone hurts someone they love. Those thoughts came, and then I acted upon those thoughts. And so I went out to go do something to the people that hurt my people. Luckily enough, I ended up not making it to my destination. And a year later, I found myself, along with 9 other friends, or 10 other friends, excuse me, standing in a courtroom, all handcuffed together, and the judge saying, "You guys are facing a life sentence for a conspiracy to commit murder." And I was 23 years old at the time. Now I'm 45. At that time, I thought that was my fate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, damn, like, this is what it was all about. Like, I knew I wasn't going to make it. Like 16, 15 years old when I started gangbanging, I'm like, man, I took the oath of, or understanding that I'm either going to go to jail forever or I'm going to die doing this. And so at 23 years old, when I'm facing a life sentence and I believe I'm never coming home again, I'm like, well, this is what it is, right? Like I accepted my fate. Although I didn't like it, I wasn't raising my hand to do that. There was many nights, I would cry. Just a couple handful of nights that I would cry, because I knew I was never going to see my mom again. Um, but I was okay with that, at least outwardly. Fast forward, I ended up fighting that charge for about a year. Didn't get all that time. Ended up eventually only doing the most I was going to look at was 8 years for a lesser charge of conspiracy to shoot out of a moving vehicle. And then got out of jail, but nothing changed. You know what I mean? When you get out of jail, or at least when I got out of jail, because there was no rehabilitation, because I didn't change my mindset, it didn't matter how much support or no support I didn't have. I didn't change me. And since I didn't change me, I went right back to the things that were familiar. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us, we think it's so easy for everyone when they get out of jail. We have all the things for you. Why don't you just change your life? It's not that simple. If the mind hasn't changed, the habits will not follow, right? And my habits didn't follow because my mind never changed. And so for the next, I got out in 2006. From 2006 to 2018, that's 12 years. I was out here doing stupid stuff. I didn't get caught as much anymore. But it wasn't until I finally said enough was enough. It was January 1st, 2018. And I said, enough is enough. And I was tired of doing the same things. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being paranoid. Sick and tired of being a procrastinator. Sick and tired of being a self-proclaimed loser. Although big house on a golf course, my home looks nice. I have a nice car. Everything looks nice externally, but on the inside, I was dying. I did a lot of drugs and alcohol so that I could suppress my emotions, suppress my paranoia, to help me go ahead and get through most of my day, right? Alcohol allowed Mr. Fuck It came out, right? Mr. Fuck It. When alcohol started, Mr. Fuck It came out, and that allowed me to do things that I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing. And I did that for many years. And I was sick and tired of doing all that. And I finally said, enough is enough. And I looked at my life and I finally said, if 90% of my bad decision making, the bad decisions, me going to jail, me doing all these stupid things, I had alcohol in my system. I wouldn't do any other drugs unless I had alcohol in my system. So I said, if I take alcohol out of my system, maybe 90% of my life gets better. And see, that's the mind shift I was just talking about. See, I finally said, the person I am can no longer exist in order for me to get to the place where I need to be. And that was the start of the journey. And from then I started to say, you know what? Let me just see what this looks like. I don't know. Maybe it's just a year. That was the first goal. Like, I'm just going to stay sober for a year. Because what ended up eventually happened was another reason why I got sober, because a good friend of mine who was on that same case with me 15 years previous had just returned home from prison. And and came to my house on New Year's Eve that night before I made the decision, and I had a big old party. And at the party, I had a gang of homies over, a lot of my friends, a lot of family. And the next day when I asked him how was the function, like, man, how you like it, bro? I put this all for you. He like, bro, the party was cool. He said, however, you was an asshole. You was an asshole to your wife. You was an asshole to your kids. You was an asshole to all the homies. He said, this is what they told me you be acting like when you get drunk. And that right there was like, that was a big slap in the face because I was like, dang, I would ask my friends how I'll be, and they would say, oh, you're good. You're good, Cole. Don't trip. But they never gave me the real details. And I was quite upset because I'm like, the people I would lie for, die for, ride for, go to jail for wasn't being totally honest with me. And I no longer wanted to be the boo-boo, the fool. I didn't want to be the laughing stock of my friends, right? And so when I decided, I'm like, hey, let's just get sober, that became the journey. And so now for like the last 8 years, I've been on that journey of sobriety. So August 13th, although I started January 1st, I had a couple of relapses, but the journey starts at August 13th, 2018 is when sobriety saved my life because I finally said enough was enough. And this August 13th will be 8 years sober, right? No alcohol, no drugs. I don't even eat beer battered fish. Like I'm serious about my sobriety. And during that journey, as I'm getting my mind right, I'm getting my spirit right, I'm getting my body, my physical. I was overweight. I was 190 pounds. I'm a small dude. I had high blood pressure. In this transformation, when I say your mind shift has to change, I finally said I have to kill my old self so I can become somebody anew. Like literally, I had to change my beliefs. I had to change my philosophy. What am I going to do different? Do I believe in hurting somebody if someone hurts me? No, I don't. Jonas Royster does it. So Cole believes that, but Jonas Royster doesn't. And see, that's the dichotomy of understanding of a mind shift. You no longer operate from the old mind, from the old person, from the old belief system. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do something different. And I remember as I was walking on my treadmill, getting healthy because I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I'm like, I just want to be healthy. I heard the Spirit say to me, if you write the book, eventually you'll talk to people who lived a life similar to you. I'm like, God, I don't even know what that means. I ain't no author. I ain't go to college. Like, what the heck is that? And then he showed me another picture on the screen in my mind. As he talks to me in pictures, I might not always hear a voice. Sometimes there'll be a picture that flashes on the screen of my mind. And he reminded me of me writing a letter and things when I was locked up. And then I heard if you write a letter, you can write a book. And so I said, you know what? I don't know what this means, but it was loud and clear. It's like the first time I ever heard God speak to me. I didn't grow up in the church, so this is new to me, right? That's a new philosophy for me. See, so Cole didn't go to church, but Jonas Royster started to read different spiritual practices, so he was able to receive that, right? And so I said, you know what? Maybe let's just see. Let's just see if this is true. And so I started writing the book, and it took me 44 months, every day, 1 hour a day for 44 months, re-edits, revises, getting the book cover. And I eventually wrote my first book, which is called Bangin', The Making of a YG. Some people are like, what is a YG? Like a young gangster, okay? And it's a fictional book, loosely based around my life, kind of. So it's factional. The stories in that book are not real. However, that thought process of the main character, Deshaun, those are my thoughts. Those are things how I would think when I was younger. The parts where he was scared, the parts where he had to project courage and bravery. And it's a really great book. For those of y'all who haven't read it, go on Amazon, go Ingram Sparks, anywhere books are sold, type my name in, Jonas Royster, you can find that book. It's so much so that I entered it into a lot of contests. So 6 months after completing that book, I received a couple of emails and I won a handful of contests. So that book has won 4 awards. The top award that I'm really proud of is I entered into the 2022 Los Angeles Book Festival. And there was like, I think about 1,500 to 2,000 books that were entered. And Bangin', The Making of a YG won top honors, meaning it was the #1 book out of the whole conference, all right, out of the whole festival. So um, that right there really began my journey as an author. And the reason it helped, right? I'm so proud of that is because there were so many people who doubted me. I even doubted myself, right? Think about it. There's so many times when we go about trying to do something new and we've never done it, the road is not clear to the end. So, I mean, I had friends, oh, you shouldn't write this book, man. Who's gonna read a book about gangbanging? How you gonna do this? How you gonna do that? After 3 years, think 44 months is almost 4 years. So after 3 years, I was thinking the same thing, like, man, I might as well just write a new book. But I knew this. See, old me, so cold, never completed his ideas, never ran his dream all the way through from inception to completion. And for Jonas Royster, I told myself, I'm going to do that. And I will judge it at the end, whatever it takes. And that was the game changer for me. So once I wrote the book, once I got won some awards, it said, you know what, Jonas, once you finally believe in yourself and you really don't give up on yourself and you don't allow other people's opinion of you to become your reality, all things are possible. And so that became my journey as an author. And since then, I have a handful of other books. Second book called Quotes Off the Wall, 31 Days to Break Bad Thinking Habits and Embrace Positivity. It's a quote book. Quotes help me break a lot of bad thinking habits and drinking habits and a lot of other things. And the book is great. Then the book though that holds near and dear to my heart, which I think is kind of like how we met, especially through Kayla, is called The Cheat Code, Helping You Complete Probation and Parole Successfully. I had a gentleman that I went and met in a mastermind. I was like, bro, I don't know what book to write next. And he said, hey, man, you completed probation, haven't you? I'm like, yeah, but I violated once or twice. It's like, that doesn't matter. He's like, you're off now, right? I'm like, yeah. He said, why don't you write a 5-step book on about how to complete probation from your experience? And I held on to that. He told me that about 2 years before I even wrote the book. And then finally, I had told another individual. We ended up partnering Armand King. We partnered on that book, and that book is now it's all across the nation in a lot of different correctional and county jail facilities. We also have curriculum for that book. And so that has been my guiding light. How do I help individuals that are coming home from being locked up shift their mindset, shift their identity, become leaders of themselves, and see that all things are possible regardless of your past, regardless of what others is telling you, and how to go out and do it. And so that's what I've been on for now the last 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years on personal development, about 5 years in helping others doing what it is that I love to do. And so anybody that's coming home, I'm a firm believer that we all have skills. We all have some skills from our former life or the life we live. We may not even want to call it former, but the life that got us locked up. We had ways to get money. We had ways to survive, but those skills are transferable into a new life. Just like God showed me the picture of me writing letters, I was able to write that book, right? Even when I started, there was a moment I didn't share in my story, Armani, where I started to do real estate during the pandemic. Not real estate in the sense of I'm selling homes, but it's actually called wholesaling, where I would look online, I would find properties that were beat up and abandoned. And then I would call the owners and I would ask have a conversation with the owners about selling a house for pennies on the dollar for less than what it is because there was so much work. I would get it under contract. I would buy that house on paper and tell them I would pay them in 30 days. Then I would sell that contract to an actual person in their city, right, that is actually fixing and flipping homes for a little bit of money on top. And so I did that during the pandemic. And that is the skill of what I used to sell marijuana, right? I sell marijuana. I get pounds of marijuana. I used to own a dispensary. I get pounds of marijuana for a cheap, they would come in at a cheap price. I'd put a little bit of money on top of that, meaning I add a cost, and then I would sell it for a little bit more. So when I got into wholesale real estate, at first I didn't think I could do it, but I went back and said, hold on, I used to do this already illegally. I can now do this legally and get money. So my question to a lot of individuals is, what did you used to do to get money, especially if you're looking for a new career that you can transfer into this new life? Sometimes you may not be able to open your business right away. You can start working on your business. It might not bring you the money, but sometimes you got to also work that job, right? Work the nightmare so you can fund your dream. Okay. And so that's been my journey. How do we use our skill sets to go ahead and utilize them, and so that we can gain confidence, that we can understand that we can do it, and then be productive members in society, and then go back and help our brothers and sisters like you're doing, And so that's what this is about. And I really do appreciate you for all that you do, you know, being at your situation. So thank you. That's some of the story in the short amount of time. Is there any questions?